The briefing room was buzzing with chatter, the kind of tense yet routine energy that filled the air before a big mission. Maps were pinned to the walls, laptops glowed with flight data, and officers clustered around tables, trading strategies, and final checklists. At the back of the room, slipping in quietly, was a young woman in a plain base uniform, carrying a tray of steaming coffee cups. Nobody really noticed her at first. She moved silently, weaving between the chairs, placing cups down for the senior staff like it was just another errand. To most of them, she was background noise, one of those unseen figures who kept the gears turning without ever being acknowledged. The general was mid-sentence, laying out the plan with his booming voice. When one of the pilots shifted his attention, he was leaning back in his chair, half listening, his eyes tracking the woman as she set a cup down in front of him. Something caught his eye, not her face, not the way she moved, but the small patch stitched onto her sleeve. It was faded, edges frayed, but the emblem was unmistakable. His brow furrowed. He blinked once, then twice, leaning forward to be sure he wasn't imagining it. The patch was the mark of an elite unit, a sniper reconnaissance division so rare that only a handful of soldiers in the world ever earned it. It wasn't the kind of insignia you found in surplus stores or got by accident. It was only given to those who had passed grueling trials and survived missions no one else dared to attempt. He froze, his hand hovering over the cup of coffee she had just placed in front of him. The general continued speaking, but the pilot's eyes stayed fixed on her. "Excuse me," he said suddenly, cutting through the briefing. Heads turned toward him in confusion. The woman looked up, startled, like she hadn't expected to be addressed at all. "Where did you get that patch?" he asked, his voice low, but edged with something sharp. The room went quiet. The general frowned, irritation flickering across his face at the interruption. The woman hesitated, glancing down at her sleeve as though she'd forgotten she was even wearing it. "It was mine," she said softly. Her voice was steady but restrained, like she wasn't sure if she was supposed to speak. A ripple of disbelief moved through the room. One of the officers chuckled under his breath. "Come on," he said, shaking his head. "She's fetching coffee, not flying missions." But the pilot didn't laugh. His gaze hardened. He had seen enough, lived enough, to know when someone wasn't bluffing. "That's not a patch you just wear," he said. "Either you earned it, or you didn't. And if you did," he let the words hang in the air. The general's expression shifted from irritation to curiosity. He leaned back, studying her now as though seeing her for the first time. "Is this true, Specialist?" he asked. Her jaw tightened, and for a moment she looked like she might brush it off, pretend it wasn't worth explaining. But then she straightened, her eyes clear. "Sir, I earned it. 2 years ago, forward operations, long-range reconnaissance." The room erupted with murmurs. Several officers exchanged stunned glances. The chuckling man's smile disappeared. The pilot's lips parted slightly, not in disbelief, but in recognition. He had heard stories of a sniper who had covered units from impossible distances, whose call sign was whispered with respect in the field. "Why are you here, then?" he asked, almost more to himself than to her. "Why fetching coffee?" Her gaze flicked downward for a second, then back up. "Because someone decided my file didn't belong on their desk anymore," she said carefully. "Sometimes the uniform you wear doesn't match the one people let you keep." Silence fell heavier than before. The weight of her words pressed against the walls of the room. No one moved, no one spoke. The general tapped his fingers against the table, his mind clearly racing. The pilot leaned forward. "Tell me," he said, his tone almost reverent now. "That mission in the valley, the one where the convoy walked out untouched because someone kept the ridge clear. That was you, wasn't it?" Her eyes flickered, just briefly, with something unspoken. Memory, a burden, maybe even regret. She didn't confirm it out loud, but she didn't need to. The look in her eyes told everyone everything they needed to know. The general finally broke the silence. "We're about to launch a mission that requires precision and nerves most people don't have. If what I'm hearing is true." He stopped, studying her again. then we've been wasting a soldier's talent behind a coffee tray. For the first time since she entered the room, a faint smile tugged at her lips. Not smug, not proud, just steady. The smile of someone who had been waiting for the moment she could step back into the role she was built for. The pilot reached out, tapping the patch on her sleeve with 2 fingers. "Welcome back," he said quietly. The room, once filled with doubt and dismissal, now sat in respectful silence. The officers who had laughed no longer met her eyes. The general stood, straightening his jacket, and nodded. "It looks like we have another asset for this mission. Specialist, take a seat. You won't be serving coffee today." "Oh gosh." And just like that, the dynamic shifted. The woman who had walked in unnoticed, carrying trays and moving quietly around the edges of power, was no longer invisible. In that room, among the men who once overlooked her, she was suddenly everything they needed, a reminder that greatness doesn't always wear the rank it deserves, and that sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones the world almost forgets. The pilot sat back, finally lifting his coffee to his lips. He smirked as he took a sip, shaking his head slightly. "Guess I just got served something stronger than caffeine," he muttered, earning a rare laugh from the room. But under the laughter lingered a deeper truth. The mission ahead had just gained someone whose presence could change everything. And though she said nothing more, her silence carried the weight of experience, and her patch spoke louder than any words ever could.